Excellent. How's everybody this evening? So I don't have a actual PowerPoint slides. I'm going to speak about my experiences over the last 2 years more specifically, but it comes from almost 10 years of working in the cybersecurity space. So how many of you, it's a question for the audience. So how many of you can take a guess of how many places on the internet you would have your information today? Just take a rough guess. So start from the right. Yes, 1,000? You're the first person in the last 2 years who has said that number. That's interesting. Anyone else? Come on, don't be shy.
I was going to say 30, but he seems like he said maybe 600.
630,000. How about this side? Come on.
So sorry, is the question how many places in that?
You would have your data.
We choose to have it, or it is? We think it is, or it actually is?
Yeah, you choose to have it. Let's start with that. Yeah. Where you can remember you have left your data. And when I say data, it could be just an email ID. Couple of thousand. Interesting. I think I should gather with this group more often. Sorry? 10,000. Okay. Actually, there's no statistics available in the marketplace today. So it's not a trick question really, because I'm in the discovery phase myself, right? There are some statistics, but there's no real proof to say that this is the kind of data you have shared, either willingly or unwillingly, right? Unwillingly is when someone has stolen the data from the place where you gave it willingly, and it's become unwillingly available for the rest of the world. So I started this company, which I run right now, StickSecure, about 10 years ago. And we started the company as a program project management company, and then literally stumbled on our first cyber security or internet security kind of project, which we ran very successfully, and I got really passionate about it. And it was fairly new in 2006, 2007. Not many people spoke about security other than having an antivirus software installed on your computer. So we made a decision to go down the path of specializing in cybersecurity. So basically the business changed from project management to cybersecurity all of a sudden, and it hit us really bad in terms of people didn't know that who the hell this company was in cybersecurity. So we literally went down in revenue for almost 3 years, right? And during that time, one night, I just sat down and I said, why am I even doing this? I just asked myself the question, because it was really important. Money was a different aspect, because I started my career pretty early in life. I know how to make money. It is not about how to earn. Most of us know how to make money if you want to make money. But the point was, why am I actually doing this? Right? And it was past 2 a.m. and I think about from 2 to 6 a.m. in the morning. I didn't sleep that night, the following morning. And it kind of dawned to me at a point that we all wake up in the morning, go to work, come back, and most of us prefer to go to work and come back not being shot, for example, right? Or not being robbed, or not being, someone, come chase you or whatever. So there's an inherent state of a human being to feel comfortable and safe in the world you live in. And that's kind of a state of a birthright, or you can call it an expectation you have as a human being. And that thought led me to think the next stage, saying, well, we are actually living in a parallel universe created by ourselves, which is the cyber world or the internet, right? And this was almost 5-6 years back, and I said, that's when it dawned to me, saying, actually there is going to be a point in time that our information on the internet, which is termed as footprint by some articles and some journals. What we put on the internet is called our footprint on the internet, will have an impact on our personal lives. And it has had in the past, and it still continues to have now. The rate is just growing every day, right? I met someone today who mentioned about their systems getting hacked and their computer systems being, and every event I go to, every client meeting I had, either there is an impact to the individual or their organization or their friend, so there's some related story, and it's all about connecting the dots. So as we continue to grow in the cyberspace, every day we will begin to hear such incidents, right? And how do you deal with these incidents? And that was the biggest test. And at that point, I got the why, really saying, yeah, so we will continue doing this business. Doesn't matter if it makes money or not. It was not making money at that point, but we made a decision that we'll continue the business because we're really committed for the future and the security of the human race from a cyber perspective, not from a physical world perspective. But funnily, the cyber world has an impact on the physical world too, right? And that correlation, I think Brian touched upon it, and there are a lot of high-profile speakers talking about it. In fact, I was listening to this video. The CEO of Tesla says we are almost half a cyborg in some form or shape, right? And interestingly, we are using smartphones, we have data, we have wearable devices. So everything what we are doing in some form or shape is connected to the internet in some form or shape. Like as I'm speaking right now, she's recording the video, which at the end of it will go into an iCloud device somewhere in the US or God knows where, and it gets stored, right? So instantaneously, this talk, what I'm doing right now, has some connection to the internet, right? Or you may, post an article about it or take a photograph, which gets saved on a computer device or a server. So, about just 5 years ago, that story happened, and I got the why, and I'm still passionate about it, and we're still continuing to grow with that why aspect of it. But then the next question saying, why led me to start looking at organizations. So we work with, large organizations, small, medium, all types of organizations. And what dawned to me again was, if let's say you create a new website and you want visitors to your site, everybody wants customers, you may have a newsletter subscription, or you may have a registration page to enter your first name, last name, email address, telephone number. Some even take date of birth if you're a retail store, to wish them happy birthday on their day, and then send them a voucher to buy some gift for themselves or their loved ones, and so on and so forth. So what I started seeing the pattern, which was quite obvious, but when you don't pay attention to something, it doesn't seem as obvious, was literally every website you go to collects some kind of, or every internet, including government sites or other places you visit, captures some form of your personal data. And the real challenge is, we are expecting all these companies all over the world to protect our data, and with the hope that it never gets stolen, which is not the case. So obviously they're all getting, there are hacks happening. In fact, yesterday there was an article that someone hacked into Mark Zuckerberg's Twitter account and Pinterest account or something, because they got hold of the LinkedIn breach. LinkedIn had a breach where it released the usernames and passwords, and someone found Mark Zuckerberg's password, which they used to get into his Twitter account. So, but I think Facebook says that Twitter account is not being used. But the matter of the fact is, they got into some account which was not being used, but it's still his account. So I began to start challenging the status quo. And as a human race, we like status quo. Nobody likes change, right? if you look at what's happened over the last 20, 30 years, you would see if you started up a business, you would go buy a server, put it in your office, or your backyard, or your garage, or you'll put it on the floor. You'll have a server room, you'll have a lock and key, and so on and so forth to set it up. And that's how you ran a business, right? Then people said, this is just too expensive to run it. You know, we have to maintain air conditioning, cooling, and all that. So then there were data centers where you could go host the same system but connect it back to you. So people moved away their trust from their location to elsewhere. And now from data centers, it's still in data centers, but they've coined a name called cloud, where you don't even probably know where your data is, right? Which is sitting on some server either in this country or some other country, right? So trust has been constantly passed away to a different entity or a location, one to potentially minimize your own risk, and two with the hope that they would do a better job at securing that data rather than you try and do it yourself, right? So I start questioning, saying, why do you want to store data? So how many of you have some kind of an internet presence as a website for your business? Great, right? And how many of you collect personal data of your customers on that internet site? Great. How many of you have a login mechanism to log your customers in and out of your system? Okay, great. So the first thing when you build any internet destination is you need some kind of a login mechanism to authenticate that this is Bethany, or this is Ajay who is actually logging in. So Bethany and Ajay get a username and password. There's a privacy policy, there's a security policy, which or terms and conditions which we normally don't even bother to read. We'll click yes, we accept the terms and conditions, jump in and do our transaction with the hope that the company is diligent enough to, safeguard my data and will not share my data and everything else, right? In fact, if you read the detailed terms and conditions of Google Docs basically says anything you upload there is their property at the end of the day, right? Which many people don't really know and then trust that Google Docs will never read your data, but they have artificial intelligence machines reading all your data to see how they can target marketing back to you, right? So their stuff is happening. So I basically started challenging the status quo and said, why do you need data? So many people answered saying, oh, that's our asset, they're our customers. I said, well, if I walk into a retail store, like a physical retail store, I've got cash in the pocket or a credit card, I like a product, let's say that bag, and I say, yeah, I want to buy that bag, I give my credit card or cash, buy it and get out, right? Now, obviously the retail store would like to keep in touch with me to know who I am and offer me other products, that's fine. But why do you need to store all my data, right? Why do you need to actually store? You need to know my data was the question, right? You need to know, but the moment you start storing my data, the challenge is that you need to have security, privacy, and everything else around it. And it doesn't matter how big a business you are, even if you're a startup or a large enterprise like Commonwealth Bank or ANZ, it ends up to be quite an expensive process to maintain that security and compliance. And banks can afford it. They say they can't, but they actually can afford it. And now they've upped the ante literally, right? So I can't take names, but some banks actually investing millions of dollars in security for the mistakes what they did in terms of actually storing the data. That's the sad fact. So in the olden days, if I had to prove my identity, I had to take my passport, driver's license physically out, present it to you to prove my identity, right? Things are changing, and the reason I challenge the status quo is today I can have a link to the Australian government servers, and if Bethany gives me authority to verify your identity, I can verify your identity online without you actually physically presenting me that, physical document, right? So that led us to think that there is a potential, there's a possibility, right? So this is work in progress. So I want to be clear that this talk I'm giving is about something which is work in progress. So we are putting together a project together as an offshoot of my current company, Stickman. We've named it StickSecure for now. The marketing department doesn't like the word StickSecure. They say, what's StickSecure? But I don't know, we like the name. We'll figure it out what it ends up to be. But it doesn't matter what the name is going to be. But the real point when Gorenka asked me whether I'll be interested to speak, and she said it's about social change, and that's really very important for me because I have a corporate enterprise which I'm running. StickSecure, if it happens, and when it happens, is not about making another corporation, right? So the whole idea of StickSecure was that we need to build a platform which is independent of all the other corporations, which is meant for people, right, for us, where we can build some kind of a platform which is trustworthy to share our data and then also have a control. So the reason, coming back to my first question, do you know how many places, and someone took a stab of 1,000, 10,000, 630, is today there's no way you can do it, right? Well, there is, when I say there's no way, there is a way, which is probably quite cumbersome. So the first element of StickSecure, the whole idea was to give the user, that is you and I, the ability to map our data on the internet, right? So today if I ask you, how many documents do you carry with you, you can quickly pick your wallet out or, go back home and collect all your documents and say, yeah, I've got driver's license, passport, I've got. So in the physical world, we're kind of attuned to doing this. We're pretty good at figuring out where our information is to a great degree, unless you're Bill Gates and you have no idea how many properties you have all over the world. But there are always exceptions in every scenario. So the first element of StickSecure is to give the ability for end users to be able to map their world on the internet, literally know how many email accounts they have, what's their financial situation. So literally a platform for you to track and monitor your activity on the internet. Right? I have no problem with Facebook and Google doing what they have to do to increase their revenues. That's their business model. I use Facebook and Google. I have no issues with it. But what I have an issue with is that I have no visibility of how my data is flowing on the internet. So that's the first stage. The second part of StickSecure is to give these organizations the possibility to use StickSecure as their centralized repository for user information. So today I'm Ajay Oni. I will probably remain Ajay Oni till I die unless I choose to change my name, but there's a process for changing names and so on and so forth. But the point is, if I change address, if I change, my passport, or I get a new passport, new driver's license, new credit card, I don't have to go and update it into 500 different places where I have provided this information. It's to create and challenge the status quo for new and existing businesses to say, you can use StickSecure as the centralized platform, and then let's say I walk into your online store and you say you have the option to log in using your StickSecure ID, for example. And the moment I log in using StickSecure ID, you may say, for people who log in using StickSecure, I need this information from you. So that's when I have the authority to then approve what information you can see, right? And how you're going to use it. And if you're a brand new business, what we want to offer through StickSecure is to have them not worry about the login, privacy details, security settings, privacy laws. We'll give them predefined templates which they can use to easily ramp up their business and make sure they get online a lot quicker and not worry about security and compliance. And that's something the specialized platform is designed to build and help them manage the security and compliance. So that's the vision. I've been on it for about 2 years now. We are in the process of raising funds for this particular project and looking for partners, and literally it's still an idea. I keep sharing it whenever I can. Some people say, oh, if you share it, what if someone else does it? Well, I'll call that progress. Hopefully I can be part of that venture. But to be clear, this is not another corporate enterprise, right? Which I'm personally looking at building to make personal wealth. Hopefully it will make wealth, but that wealth will be used for building a really secure platform for internet users for the future to be able to operate more with a lot of trust and ease and convenience. So that's really what I wanted to share today, and I think we are taking questions after Raju's talk, so I'm happy to step down. So thank you everybody.